Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to just take the print and cut feature a little bit further. So in last week's video I did a recap of the print and cut feature that you can buy as an activation from your Brother retailers. However, I realised after I had completely finished editing and scheduling that video that although I showed you how to save your PDF print file and save your cut file, I didn't actually show you how to do the actual cutting of the printed page. This video is going to include how to do that, but I also thought I would kind of expand on the print and cut and show you how you can use the print and cut another way. So the way that I'm going to show you how to use it in this video is how to make a shaped card from a printable image that you can get the ScanNCut to print and cut for you. So you're going to still need to have the print and cut activation. I am using an image that I got from Creative Fabrica. Now, this is free as part of my all access subscription, but if you are not a member, you can buy just this individual file and there'll be links to it in the accompanying blog post over on my Apple Lover 53 website. But if you want information about how much it costs to join so that you can then get everything on the site completely free, there'll also be information in the accompanying blog post as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just head over to my blog, look for this post and all the information will be in the blog post. If you're watching this video actually on my blog, then all the information will be again contained within the blog post. The first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to be using the print and cut, I'm using Canvas Workspace for computer because that's what you need to use for the print and cut facility. I'm going to come over to the right hand side to the artboard icon. I'm going to change my artboard or page size to A4. Now, if you're in the US, you might want to change it to letter, but in the UK, it's about 8¼ by 11¾ are A4 paper. So that's now changed my paper size to match my UK A4. You'll see the red bounding box, which we have to keep within when cutting, and obviously in this instance, printing and cutting. And then the next thing I'm going to do is where it says show registration marks, I'm going to turn those on. That way, when I print the printable image and I cut the cut file, the ScanNCut will read these registration marks and it will cut the outline of the printed image for me. So that's how you set your page up, okay? If you have a printer that prints 12 by 12, then leave this on 12 by 12 with your registration marks on. I just have a regular, A4 printer. So that's, as I say, setting the page up. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the auto trace facility to trace the image that I want to be able to print and cut, but obviously I want to make it into a shape card as well. So I'm going to show you all that in this video. So I'm going to come to the auto trace icon over on the left and I'm going to get an image from my computer. I've put the file on my desktop just so that I can navigate to it easily. And the image I'm going to use is this one here called m2.png. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to say open. That's going to show me a preview image and I only want the outside edge tracing. I don't want all the gaps or anything tracing. If I did, I would click on the downward facing arrow and say trace all areas, and you can see it literally traces everything. And if there's things like all these flowers that you wouldn't want cutting, you just take the number of colours down and say preview, and that's how you can kind of try and minimize a lot of the stuff that you don't need. You'll probably never get it perfect, so what you could do is say okay, then you'd have to go in and edit some of the nodes and get rid of the bits that you don't want, which I have shown you how to do in the first print and cut video that I did, which I linked to in last week's video. So I'll also try and remember to link that video as well at the end of this one, okay? But for now, I'm just going to say trace outer edge, say okay. And so now here is my printable image, and it has got a cut line all around it. Now, when you do the auto trace using the print and cut facility, it automatically comes on as a grouped item. So while it's grouped, I'm going to resize this down. So I'm going to come to the edit icon over on the right hand side, and I'm going to make the height about 5 inches just for now. And because I've got maintain aspect ratio selected, it will adjust the width according. So I'm just going to do 5.0, I'm in inches, and say OK. So there is my design. Now if I just right click and click ungroup, and then just click anywhere on the page to deselect and drag away, you'll see there is my outline, and that's my printed image. So I'm just going to select undo so they go back together, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to make them a group again just for now. So I'm going to come over to the left hand side to the shapes, and I'm going to drag on a square. Now I'm going to make this into a rectangle. I'm going to make it, I'm going to untick maintain aspect ratio. I'm going to make the width about 2¼ and I'm going to say on the height 5½ for now. Then I'm going to bring my image back in. So this is my image with my cut outline already around it, and this is my rectangle. So now let me try and zoom in. So I'm going to position this rectangle so it's maybe not quite halfway on the design. What I'm looking to do, I'm looking to make sure that this right hand edge of the rectangle is touching at least the bottom of the design, and I want it touching, you know, part of the top. I'm going to select both, and I'm going to use the align in the middle so that the image is now centralized between that rectangle. I'm going to come over to the layers panel. I'm going to choose the cut outline in the layers panel. So I'm not touching the image, just the cut outline that the auto trace put in for me. I'm going to hold down my shift key on my keyboard, and I'm going to choose the rectangle as well. Now it's not letting me do that, so I might have to ungroup this. So I'm going to right click on the image and select ungroup. So now I want to select the cut outline and the rectangle. There you go. It wouldn't let me do it because this was grouped. So I'm not touching the image, I'm just selecting the cut outline and that rectangle. Oh, I forgot, sorry, I need to go back a step. So I want to select the image and the cut outline and make a duplicate and just put that on one side for now. So now I'm going to come back to this. So this duplicate here contains the printable and the outline. Okay, I'm just keeping them on one side. So I'm coming back to this one here now in the main area of the mat, and I'm going to select the cut outline, hold the shift key down and select the rectangle. Okay, from here I'm going to come back to the edit icon just with those two elements selected, and I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to choose weld. So now when I just left click anywhere to deselect and I drag this away, you'll see it's welded half of the shape that wasn't covered by the rectangle to the rectangle. So that's kind of like the front of my card, if you like. So I'm going to undo so that goes back into place. I'm just going to select it and move it all over. So now I'm just going to choose the rectangle shape that's now got this section welded to it. I'm going to right click and say duplicate. So I'll put that there so you can see it for now. And then I'm going to come to flip and mirror horizontal. So now just using the keys on my keyboard, I'm just going to scoot it over so that this right hand edge of the section that's marked in blue overlaps this original rectangle slightly, because I'm going to weld them together and make a shape card. then I'm just, because I can see it's overlapped, I'm just going to left click to deselect. I'm going to drag an imaginary box around the two shapes plus my printable image. So just these three elements, and I'm going to say center them all. Okay. And now you can see that it's centered this, what will become the back half of the card, to the right half of the card, and everything else is already in position. And now I'm going to say weld, but I've got to deselect because it's selecting the printable image as well, and you can't weld a printable image. So I'm going to left click just in the corner here to get the rectangle, hold my shift key down and left click on this rectangle. So now I've only got the two elements selected, and I'm going to weld and click away. So now if I move the printable image out of the way, you can see when I put a fold line down here, I've got the front half of my card and the back half of my card. So I'm just going to undo that so that the printable image goes back into place. So now I'm just going to select the outline, so the cut outline. I'm not touching the printable image. I'm not going to make that any bigger. I just want to make the outline bigger. If you like to cut directly on, the outline, then you can ignore this next bit. You can just leave this as it is. But I like my outline to be bigger around my design. So I'm going to left click on the cut line only. Okay, so from now on, from the offset icon, I'm going to make my spacing 0.08 outward. I'm going to leave it on rounded because this shape's got, quite a lot of curves. And I'm going to say create an offset line only around the outer edge and say OK. So now you can see it's put a bigger outline around the original cut line for me. So I'm going to go back to my layers panel. That's my my offset layer, because you can see it's selected here and it always selects the offset. So the one underneath it is the original cut line, which I'm now just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard. So you can see now that when this folds in half, this will be the front of my card and I'll have a little white border all around my printed design. I'm not going to put the printed design on the back. I don't think it's worth it. But if you want to do that, then you just duplicate it, flip it, and it will fit in there. I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to come back to the edit icon and I'm going to see how wide and how tall this design is. Now you can see that this, if I left it this way, wouldn't fit within the red bounding box. And I want to print and cut some other elements down here on the page, so I'm going to make this smaller. I've still got this one over here. Let me just group that. Okay, so that's grouped. So I've still got this one, which I'm just leaving on one side for now. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to drag an imaginary box around my card base, if you like, and my printable image. And I'm going to make the height. I'm going to select maintain aspect ratio. And I'm going to make the height 5.5 and see what it gives me in the width. It's still too wide, so I'm going to take it to 5.25 and see what it gives me in the width. Now, it is within that red box, but I am just going to take it down ever so slightly. So this time on the width, instead of 7.92, I'm going to say 7.87 and enter and see what I get. So that is hopefully going to be a lot better. If I click away, you'll see when I click on it, it's within the red bounding box, okay? So I'm going to come back to my layers and I want to select this image. Okay, so just the image, it's got no outline on it now, and I want to see how tall it is. So this is just the image, because if you remember, I used its outline to make the original shape card and then I inflated that with an offset. So this is just the printable image. So I'm going to come back to the edit tab and I can see that it's 4.61 by 3.28. So if I bring this one in, which is obviously bigger because I've just shrunk this whole thing down, I want to make this one now the same height as this. I'm going to select this one that's got its outline with it, but the outline is right up against the edge. So if I come to the height and put 4.61, when I hit enter, the width should go to 3.28. There you go. So this is now the exact same size as that. Now the reason I'm doing this is because this image here is going to be printed, and then I'm going to print it on white card, and the white card is going to be cut all the way around the edge like that with a little border, and then come all the way around here, then it's going to fold in half. But I want to kind of do a little bit of decoupage, so I want to cut another one of these and layer it on top. Now this design has already got its cut line with it, if you remember. If I ungroup it and click away and drag it away, you can see it's got its cut line. So I could just leave that grouped, and I could leave it on the page here, and I could print it, and I could have the ScanNCut cut directly on the line all the way around it, and then I could put some 3D foam on the back of this and layer it up on the top. But like I keep saying in all of my videos, I like a white line around my images. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to right click and ungroup, I'm going to come to my layers panel, and I'm going to find the cut outline for this shape. So it's here, it's easily recognizable because the other one now you can see is a front and back card. So I'm going to select just the cut outline, come back to my edit tab, and in the offset, I'm going to create an outward offset, but this time I'm going to say 0.04. So it's going to have a slight white border around it, but it won't be as big as this border here. And I could make it 0.08 so it all completely lines up, but I actually want it to be nearer the size of the printable image, if that makes sense, but just with a tiny little white border. So I'm going to make it 0.04, leave everything else as it is, and say OK. So now when I come back to my layers, you'll see this is the offset I've just added, because the offset is always what's selected when you do the offset, if that makes sense. So when you do that move, that offset move, that will be what's selected. So if I come down here in my layers panel and select this, I don't know if you saw, but the box shrunk. So that's my original cut line, which is cut tight to the image. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard to get rid of it. So now I'm going to select both of these two images and right click and group. So now when I send this to print, it will print this image up here and it will print this image up here. And then when I send it to cut, it will cut the outline around here and around here. But I'm just going to add another couple of elements, but I just need to go and find them because they're not in this file that I'm using today. They're in the mega bundle that I showed you how to use in last week's video, and I can't remember what folder they're in, so I just need to go and find them, but I will tell you when I've found it. Okay, so the file number is CL1038, and that's in the mega bundle, but all this information will all be in the accompanying blog post on my applelover53.co.uk website. So just to save some time, what I've done, I've copied the file and put it here on my desktop, or I've copied the PNG file from within that folder. So now I'm going to come back to the auto trace icon over on the left. I'm going to say I want to trace an image from my computer. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to that PNG file, and the image that I want is this, the holly with the berries and like the twigs. And I've chosen the PNG folder, so everything in this folder is PNG, and I'm going to say open. And I'm going to leave it to trace around the outer edge only, and it looks as though it's put all the blue lines in for me. So I'm going to say OK. So that's going to bring the design onto my page, And as I said before, these come in as a grouped item. So I'm going to right click and ungroup. So now I've got the cut line and the image, and I'm going to find the cut line in my layers panel. So over here on the right, I'm still in my layers panel, and I can see there's it says shape, that's the outline, and that one says image. So you can see it's in color anyway. So I'm going to click the outline. I'm going to come back to my edit icon. I'm going to come down to offset, and I'm going to say I want a 0.04 outward offset. And as I said to you before, the offset is always the one that's chosen. So I'm going to come back to my layers panel, so I can see that that's my offset because it's highlighted here in blue, which means it's chosen. So I'm going to select the one underneath, which is the original cut line that the auto trace put in. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. So now I'm going to just drag an imaginary box around both of these two. You can see I've got a nice white border all the way around. I'm going to right click and group, and now I'm going to shrink it down because my thinking is that I'm going to use this as a decoration to lay on top of this layer that's going to go on top of here. So as these two images are the same size, it doesn't matter which one I kind of put it over at the moment, just to have a look and see how it's going to look. So I think that might look quite nice. I'm going to make a duplicate because I might want to put, two on it and, position them at a bit of a jaunty angle kind of thing. So I'm gonna say I'm going to use two. I'm going to print and I'm going to cut two. Okay. So now it's a case of saving this 2 times, as I explained last week. So I've got to save it as a printable image, and I've got to save it as a cut image. So at this stage now, I would not move anything at all. I would leave this completely as it is. I'm going to go to the very top of the page where it says Brother Canvas Workspace, and next to it, it says File. I'm going to export the PDF file and the images only. I don't want the black cut lines printing, so images only. I'm just going to call it Video Snowman for now, and I'm going to put it on my desktop, and it's going to save it as a PDF file. So now I'm just going to drag it in so you can see over here, Video Snowman PDF. So there's my printable. If I select it and just make it bigger, you'll see that's all you see on the printable. You see the registration marks and the printed sections that you want. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to the top of the page where it says Brother Canvas Workspace. I'm going to come back to File, and I'm going to say Export/Transfer. It says no image data will be exported. That's fine, because we know we've already got the printable parts. So I'm going to say OK, and I'm just going to say for now, export it as an FCM to my computer. And then I can put it on a USB stick and put that into the ScanNCut machine, or I can also send it over wirelessly as well, which I probably will do. But for now, I'll just put the cut file on my desktop so I can show you how the cut file looks. So I'm going to say Export FCM. I'm just going to give it the same name, Video Snowman. On my desktop, save, and I'll just drag it in. And this time when I select it and click on it to show you, you'll see I've just got the cut lines. Okay, so from here now, I would go File, Export, OK, and transfer it wirelessly so it goes over to my ScanNCut machine. So I'm going to just cancel that for now. I'm going to print the printable PDF, and then in the next part of the video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut it with the ScanNCut. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. So this is my A4 printable image. You can see my 2 snowmen and my hollies, and you can see my registration marks. I'm going to put this in the top left-hand corner of my mat. That's where the design was in Canvas Workspace. Now, I think in the past I've done this and I've just put it anywhere on the mat and it's picked up the registration marks, but I'm going to put it where it was on the mat, and then hopefully, you know, we should be okay. So I recalibrated my machine recently because I found when it was cutting outlines, they weren't even all the way around. And this will be the first time I've used the ScanNCut to cut an outline, so it will also give me an opportunity to see if the calibration has worked. So I'm putting this down, but very gently, because this is a fairly new mat. It's really sticky. So I'm just going to load this into my machine and then I'll switch the camera view. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. So I showed you that I printed the design. I showed you that I saved it on my desktop just so you could see what the outline looked like, and then I also sent the file over wirelessly. So now I'm going to go to retrieve data from Canvas Workspace, and it should bring the cut file onto my screen. So I'm going to say OK. It says please attach the material printed with the registration marks on the mat. Make sure the lines of the registration marks face the machine in the right way. So in other words, you've got to have the like bullseye with the line on top, and that's how I've got mine. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say select and cut, and I've been cutting vinyl, so I'm going to turn half cut off, and I'm going to say start. So that, I don't know how well you saw that, but it said scanning and positioning, and now it's saying cutting. So it's cut round the main body of the card. It's cutting round the holly leaves, and it's already cut round the other printable shape, so that's completely finished. So I'm going to say OK and unload the mat and bring you back to my overhead camera. Okay, I've taken the camera up a little bit higher just to hopefully give us a better view. So here's my mat, still with everything on it. So as I say, I tend to like to bend my mat and wait till the item starts to lift off, and especially with this being a very sticky mat. So again, I'm just gonna, I don't want to be pulling the shapes off because I don't want to bend them or anything. I want them to come off with ease. So let's see if I can get the rest of this off now. There you go. So now I've just got these two little bits. So again, if I just bend my mat ever so slightly, not sure how well you'll see this, but this is starting to lift, and then I can gently peel this away. Especially on these little bits, these little kind of like twiggy antler bits, because they're very fine, and this is a very sticky mat. I'm just going to put the mat to one side. So here are all the elements as they were cut from this piece of paper, and I look as though I've got a nice even border around my shapes, so my calibration must have been good, must have worked. I'm just going to put these over to one side for 1 minute, and I'm just going to bring in my scoreboard. So I didn't put a dashed cut line when I did this cut file. So I'm just going to see if I can find the middle. So that's nearly on the 7 1/4. So that would be 3 5/8. Hope you can see this. I'm just going to put a score line at 3 5/8. Hopefully that should be the middle. Just going to bring in my bone folder, and I'm going to fold this over now, and then just line up the edges before I commit. And then if that score line is not quite in the right place, by lining up the edges before I burnish it, it'll just make sure that it does get folded in half. So there is my card, okay? But then I cut this, which I want to layer up on top. I mean, you could leave it like that. If you didn't want to do anything else, you could get 2 of these to an A4 page. But, you know, I just wanted to show you another way of being able to use it. These would be great. You could get like your glossy accents on the nose and maybe on the candy cane and the candy cane handle. But, you know, and I think that would be a great card. And then just right inside, you know, and it would fit in a normal UK A6 or US A2 envelope easily, because this particular finish size now is about 4.5 by 3 3/4. So 4.5 by 3 3/4. You could make it bigger. As I say, if you weren't adding all the extra bits on, what you could do once you'd got this with your print and your outline, you know how I was showing you how to take it down in height, and then I adjusted the width to get it to fit within the red lines. What you could do, you could just drag, with it all selected, you could just drag the height down to make it about 5.5 and see if you could get 2 on. You've got to be within that red dotted line that you see in Canvas Workspace, okay? So let's just have a look at this quickly. Now I know I used the holly leaves from a different set and they're a different green, but I'm going to see how they look. I may or may not use them, but I am going to pop this one up onto some 3D foam. So I'm just going to get my pokey tool and just put some foam on this. You don't have to cover it in foam, you know, just enough for it to not kind of sag, or put a little one there on the end of that and one there. Like I say, you don't even have to do this bit, you could just literally leave it at that. I think that's nice. If you wanted to make a lot of these, then I probably wouldn't, you know, do all this extra. Or what you could do is print 2 of these to the page and then do another page with, you know, extra bits on, so like the holly leaves or some snowflakes or something like that. So I think that's got all those off there. So I'm just going to flatten this out to make it a little bit easier, and then I'm going to layer this now on top of the other one. And because I only put the 0.04 white border around this one, it just gives me that little white edge, but it doesn't take up all the space of the other one. And because obviously the printable part is the same size as the one underneath, it sits directly on top. And can you see, you've just got a little bit of dimension. You could do another one and put another one on top, it's entirely up to you. Or as I say, you could leave it and not add the layers. So I don't know whether I want to use these little holly leaves or not on the bottom, or whether I'm going to leave it. I might leave it actually, because I've been doing some more printing and cutting, and I've got another project, and I've got some bits and pieces in a bag, so I might just put those with that, because they're all from that bundle. Those holly leaves are not from this this file. So let me just turn it over and burnish that a bit more, and then like I say, from here I would add some, you know, maybe some, is it called diamond glaze? I can't remember what it's called now. I think I said it before. On the nose, on the little candy cane, on the candy cane handle, and then you could add some extra, you know, little rhinestone embellishments. Let me try and zoom in so you can see this a bit better. So there he is. How cute is that? As you can see, it's layered. So that's another way to be able to use the print and cut facility and make it into something different, you know, than I showed you last week, just basically printing and cutting. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.